That's a good question. That was a curveball. I didn't see that coming.
Welcome to It Comes In Pints, a Seattle Study Club podcast where we will explore a myriad of topics: clinical, health and well-being, psychological, education, business, and much more. I'm your host, Greg Tice.
I'm Todd Williams, and I am a consultant in both healthcare and hospitality, and some other industries on the side as well.
The idea behind It Comes in Pints, as our listeners well know by now, is really to have a conversation in a local pub. And to start that out, you got to have something to drink in the local pub. So, Todd, what have you brought to share with us today?
I've brought two IPAs. You and I met over an IPA, and we found our mutual appreciation. And I've got one. There's a brewery here in San Francisco, Fort Point, and they have an incredible IPA called Villager. It was my favorite forever.
Just move it in just a little bit.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
And in January of 2024, I switched to non-alcoholic drinks, non-alcoholic beers. And so I lost Villager, and that was my favorite IPA. Oh. They just a couple of months ago came out with Villager non-alcoholic, and it tastes identical. And then I also have one here, Fieldwork. This is their headliner IPA. And to me, even stacking this against regular IPAs, this is one of the best IPAs out there. And this is also local. It's made in Berkeley.
Fieldwork, headliner. And the other brewery was?
Fort Point. Fort Point. And it is their Villager IPA.
Oh, I'm going to go out and find that.
I tell you, both of these, you can't tell the difference anymore. The quality is up there.
Well, I just kind of went old school on the NA as well. I mean, we're, earlier in the day, so not going full alcoholic yet, but there we go. An Athletic, which is, the traditional, I'm hooked on this stuff. I drink it during the week all the time.
It's good stuff. I read an article that said Athletic Brewing, Whole Foods says they sell more Athletic Brewing than all of their other beers combined. It's become that popular.
Really? Well, it doesn't surprise me because it's clean. It's really good. And I don't wake up in the morning all puffy and
feel better. So it's kind of a win-win. Yeah, for sure.
So let's start here. When we first bonded, really, or when we first met, we bonded over Space Dust IPA.
We did.
And cycling.
Yes, both.
I mean, I remember when you were in Seattle getting a custom bike built for you here in Seattle.
Yeah.
But right now, we're in the best 21 days of the year. My favorite 21 days of the year.
Yeah.
The Tour de France is in full swing.
Full force. Yeah.
Are you watching?
I am. And I'm watching. It's kind of interesting to see Lance Armstrong and George Hincapie have their own commentary on it now.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's super interesting. So what are you watching for in the Tour specifically?
I don't follow it like I used to. I was so aware of every single person in the peloton, and not anymore. To me, it's just more the motivation now. I watch it, I remember, I fall in love with cycling all over again. What was the movie when I was a kid that was, Breaking Away? Yeah.
That was a great movie. Great movie.
And sometimes I still feel like that kid when I watch it.
Yeah. I'm watching to see if anybody can challenge Pogačar.
Yeah.
I look at him, he's so good.
Yeah.
I look at him kind of like Tom Brady. Like, I can't stand him, but you got to respect him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's that good at everything.
He's that good. Yeah. No, it's incredible. And you can hear it too in the commentary from everybody else. They're like, he's unlike anything. He's different.
Yeah, and he seems like a nice guy.
He does.
I mean, I wouldn't know, but that's what it seems like. So, all right. So enough of the fun talk. Let's jump in here. You're known in the Seattle Study Club network in particular, really as a phenomenal teacher as opposed to speaker. I would say you would be described as high impact, meaning both in the moment, emotionally, when we're there listening to you, but long-term as well. You're known for developing culture and service. How would you describe yourself and what you do?
culture is my world. So that was the word. That's the magic word when you said that. But it's funny. Sometimes I think the work isn't just culture work. It's getting people to look at culture in kind of a fresh way. I think sometimes we try so hard to define culture. We make it a thing as opposed to just the overall feeling of a group when they come together. You know, if you look at a team, whether it's a practice, you look at a large company, the culture is essentially what it feels like to spend time with you. And
Okay.
that kind of culture work is just, it's getting people to see the impact they have, both individually and as a group, and how that can really help you differentiate from everybody else out there.
So would you take that beyond just the workplace to conferences have a culture, to teams, to families,
Absolutely.
individual relationships?
Absolutely. I think, you see it. Sometimes I'll ask people, if you have a favorite country you go to for your vacations, what is it you like about the country? And they'll always mention it's the tradition. You start off with the basics. It's the food and the atmosphere. But eventually it gets down to it's their beliefs. It's their way of living. It's the way they embrace their day. And that, I think, translates into all those other areas you just mentioned. There can be a yearly conference that people go to because of the beliefs, because of the way it just feels to be in that crowd. There's a certain culture that's built in, and it's very, very attractive.
So I wasn't going to go here. I really wasn't going to go here at all, but I'm going to go here early now and go here anyway. I mean, one of those places to me is the symposium.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me, I mean, you've been on main stage at symposium, you've attended symposium, you've been a huge part of Seattle Study Club for the last 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
How would you describe the culture, the feeling at symposium?
Yeah, that's a good question because it is a unique culture. I think it is. There are cultures where I think people attend a conference out of obligation, and then there's conferences where they're inspired to be there. They're hungry. This is their passion. So I think for me, the culture of symposium is it's hungry. It's hungry attendees. They want to learn. They're there. It's not just something you go through the motions with. This is a conference that you look forward to because of the engagement, because of the bonding, because it's just the natural learning that takes place, not just from the stage, but from the shared conversations in the community. So I think it's a culture of enthusiastic attendees.
Enthusiastic hunger. I'm going to steal that. I totally. But I would agree with you. I think that works. So, all right. So you do your consultant training primarily Four Seasons and hospital outside of Seattle Study Club.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How do those two marry? What's the similarity? How do you move from one to the other? How did you get from one into the other?
I think they're more similar than it sounds on the surface. And, if you look at the word hospitality, it came from hospitals. And I always say hotels stole it. So sometimes I'm trying to help hospitals reclaim hospitality. But if you look at the two industries, if you were to look at life as kind of a cycle, sometimes I say during the good times in life, we check into that hospital called a hotel. And during the tough times in life, we check into that hotel we call a hospital. But if you look at the structure and what a guest or a patient is looking for, it's to meet their needs in that space. If I'm doing well, meet my needs in that space. If I'm hurting, meet my needs where I'm hurting. And yeah, I think they're very similar. So even though it sounds like it's a giant stretch, from having this much time in both industries, they're very similar.
And did you start in hospitals or hospitality?
Started in hospitals. It was a passion. It was back when the patient experience was talked about. It was kind of new. It wasn't the thing that it is today where everybody's measured on it, and that's its own beast right now. But back then it was more or less talked about in kind of this is something to consider as we go forward. And my move into hospitality was just kind of, I think a student would call it a gap year, but it was me just taking a little break to learn more about how to create a phenomenal experience and bring that back to healthcare. What I didn't know is I was going to fall in love with hospitality and stay in that industry as well. So I've kind of juggled both ever since I tasted the hotel industry.
Yeah. Now, how many Four Seasons would you say you've opened?
Oh,
Do you know the number?
I don't know the number. I would say in North America, a good 10.
Okay.
10, if not more, and it's when you say opening, it's you're going in there to open it and then to go back quarterly to help it continue. We always say opening a hotel takes 2 years. It's really not until year 3 that you're done making all the changes and the tweaks and the adjustments. So
You've kind of got things grooved in.
yeah.
Yeah. So 10 in North. So you're relatively new at this still.
Yeah, I'm still new at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brand new.
All right. So now I'm looking for some specific help or tips in particular for our leadership, but for me as well. When I think about culture, and I've heard you speak about culture and service a lot, teach about it. Especially today, things seem fractured. People seem a little more on edge, a little more. This is not a political rant, but they seem a little more divided. They seem a little more separated. It feels like people may even be bringing more stress from home into the workplace.
Yeah.
How do you help people cope with that? And is it even the right thing to say, leave it at the door?
That's a good question. That was a curveball. I didn't see that coming. Well, that's good. That's a nice twist to it, and I like that. Because I don't want you to leave anything at the door.
Right.
Right? I want you to bring the best version of yourself to work. But when I say best version, I think that's where right off the bat there's a misunderstanding. Well, the best means leaving my baggage at the door. But to me, the best is bringing the most authentic version of yourself into the building. And that means even on a rough day, I still want authentic, fully present you to come into the building. Here's what I feel is so unique about the industries I get to work in. And, one of the things, going back to your earlier question about hospitality and healthcare, they come together so perfectly in dentistry. It's the best of both worlds. We have to be as hospitable as the finest hotels, and we have to be as clinically excellent as the finest healthcare institutions. And it's just this perfect, blending of the two. When you look at individuals who are serving in this industry, there's a natural tendency to give. That's how you're wired, right? You don't take a job in dentistry and then decide that you're a caring person, right? And so I think the way to deal with that fractured society right now is to really understand the difference you as an individual make, period. Not just the difference you make at work, but you with your wiring as somebody who naturally gives in a world that takes. The world needs you right now. And I think getting people to understand that and not see that as fluff and not see that as something that's just nice to hear, but to really realize your wiring is what will reconnect a fractured society, then work becomes an incredible place to practice that and to hone that and to help you become the best version of yourself. I think what we do, my biggest struggle out there when it comes to culture is a lot of times large organizations feel that, they have a great word, consistency, but they go about the consistency sort of the wrong way. They want to script service. And at the same time, they want to differentiate. And they ask people to come in and help define their professional purpose. And they want that professional purpose to be different than the next company's professional purpose. But if you look at it differently if you look at each individual coming in and being asked to bring their best personal purpose, and then the collection of everybody performing at their best personal purpose defines your professional purpose, it's almost like a fingerprint of culture. You know, we all know there's no two fingerprints that are alike. And so if each person is bringing their personal best and allowed to have a little bit of autonomy, and they're performing at their best, then what you end up with is a professional culture that is not only different by nature, just like a fingerprint, it can't be copied. And what happens is it becomes very self-fueling, because if I have to put myself aside and come into work and serve and then go out and pick up my life again, there's going to be days I come into work not fully present, and there's going to be days I go home not fully present. But if I can just be the best version of myself in both of those arenas, we end up not only living a little bit healthier, but we start to heal that fracture.
Well, it's almost, I mean, what I hear you saying there is this is really a scenario where the whole is a collection of the parts. Mm-hmm. And it becomes greater than the sum of the parts, but it's a collection of the parts. The whole is not controlling or dictating the parts.
Correct.
It's people bringing themselves and their unique viewpoints, quirks, personalities to the table, and that creates...
That's what defines that.
Genuine connection as well.
Yeah.
My takeaway from this, though, is you said... understand, especially in dentistry, you are needed mm-hmm. in that moment for that patient, for that mm-hmm. client, for that customer. Mm-hmm. I think if we can remind each other on our teams that, look, you're needed, mm-hmm. you're needed by these people, that helps mitigate some of the stuff I might be going through in my own life.
I absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that's, you know, it's kind of a neat time. As much as we're fractured right now, what I'm seeing is a lot of the younger generation wants purpose in their work. For a while, it was just, let me do as little as I can and then get out to my life where there's purpose. And right now, people really want purpose at work. And so I think it's nice, because reminding someone they matter and having a culture where we're constantly reminding you make a difference. You're not just a number. You truly make a difference. And there is something unique about you, and that unique contribution that you bring to the culture, it's needed. It's phenomenal. It's a win-win, because you keep that individual's, I don't want to say spirit up, but you just remind them they matter, like we said. But that also satisfies what they're looking for. I want to matter. Right? The person coming in, I don't want to be a number. I want to matter.
So let's talk about purpose for a little bit here, mm-hmm. because it can be an overused word now.
Absolutely.
And I blame Simon Sinek for that. Find your why. I think I might throw up if I hear that again. So but it's interesting, because I'm seeing a shift in the quest to find purpose in your work, moving from, it used to be, I need to figure out what my purpose is and then find a job that mm-hmm. supports that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what I'm hearing and seeing and feeling now is it doesn't matter what you do. As you become good at something, you start to find purpose in that work that you're doing.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's almost a reversal of cart and horse in that
mm-hmm,
scenario.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. It's bringing intention, and that might be, because I'm like you, we've used why so much but we used it for a good reason. It does matter, but we've beat that word to death. And even purpose, that's the same thing. Once it's used so much that people go numb to it, then it no longer has an effect. But I do think intentionality is going through your day with deep intentionality makes every single area better, right? If you're interacting with your community with intention, you have a better relation with your community. If you bring that into work with your colleagues and you're intentional about what you do, and by intentional, I mean you're just present. You're really, like you said, you're bringing the best version of yourself because you don't want that to wither. You don't want that to be on hold anymore. It's like today's a good day to have a good day. I would like to bring the best version of myself into this day.
Yeah, I don't want that to be on hold anymore. I got to write that one down too. Seriously, I think that's another great reminder, right? However you want to put it, the best version of you, your authentic self, your intentionality. Why are we waiting? Like stop putting it on hold.
Yeah, this is a really good day to roll out the best version of you
Yeah.
for you and for everybody that interacts with you. It's just, this is the right time.
Now you and I have talked about this and corresponded about this a little bit. The search for purpose in work, the intentionality, and you've gotten hung up lately on the word curiosity.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier about that fractured society. I think there's a defensiveness out there. And because of it, we're always judging the human in front of us. What is their intention? As much as I'm talking about bringing your intention to work, I mean, obviously in a positive way.
Yeah.
But
Let's hope.
right. But we know there's people out there that are taking advantage of us. And so I think our guard's up. And so there's just a lot of judgment. And judgment is kind of hurting character right now. What I used to talk about in the past was the personality or the culture, the feel of a culture kind of had 3 steps. You have competence, which leads to confidence. And confidence is kind of what defines your character. So when people say, I enjoy being around that team or I enjoy interacting with them, it's usually the character that we would call culture. And that comes from a place of confidence due to competence. But what's hurting that, we're defensive right now. So what's hurting that character is this judgment. We spend so much time trying to figure out, it's almost like we go into things assuming the worst. But if you switch and you kind of look at things with a little air of curiosity again, it's a small change. But instead of saying, why do they do that? It's more like, I wonder why they do that. Instead of, why does that person come to work this way? I wonder what's going on in their life. It's a small change. It's a subtle change. But if you're intentional about that and just taking the negative tone out of it, just a little bit of curiosity and trying to understand the person, it naturally leads you to a place of compassion. It's really hard to be curious and negative.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You can be judgmental and negative.
Yes, because you're looking for the negative, right?
Right. But when you're curious, you're open to positivity, and that kind of just naturally bleeds into a compassionate state. And here's the good news. If you're in a compassionate state, you tend to be content. And if you look at the amount of anxiety that's out there right now, and you hear about the burnout, and you hear about how tired people are from this fractured society, we're like, how do we make people content? You're not going to go from anxiety to contentment. There's got to be a step to get there.
Or 2, yeah.
Or 2 or 3, right? But this curiosity, and instead of saying go into your day and be content, just go into your day and be curious and kind of watch the natural flow. And I think when you bring that to the workplace, we're a lot more resilient when it comes to frustrating days. We're more resilient when it comes to frustrating situations and interactions. But even better, when you're curious, you see so many solutions, possible solutions, so many things you can try. If you're judgmental, your guard's up.
Yep. Well, and I would put it like this. If you're judgmental, you're only going to see what you expect to see. You're going to confirm your own biases, right?
Yeah.
And there are thousands of psychological studies that show that. But if you're curious, you're open to other ideas, other opinions, other opportunities, other possibilities. It's not about I'm curious, which means I'm going to be influenced by everyone around me.
Correct.
But you're interested.
Yeah. You're back to the hunger. I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to grow. And the more I ask myself, I wonder why that person did that, or I wonder why the situation happened that way. I'm just stepping into the learning from that moment. What can this teach me?
So I can see myself, and I'm sure our listeners can see themselves in that a lot, right? We all, at one point or another, none of us is perfect, are going to be judgmental. We're going to approach things that way. We're going to have that attitude. How do you snap yourself out of it? I mean, maybe there's not a way if you don't have people around you supporting you, but is there a tip, a technique, a mantra, something I can go, Greg, just knock it off?
To me, I don't have a technique for staying in that place. I just keep it top of mind.
Okay.
The reason you said you heard me talk about it, the more I talk about it, the more I stay curious.
Yeah.
And so I try to bring it into a lot of conversations. And when I meet them, inevitably somebody will say, tell me about your work. And then the next question is, what's that work really like? And I'll bring up curiosity. And so I find the more I talk about it, the easier it is to stay in that state.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the only other option would be to take that Ted Lasso clip about being curious, the dark, and just put it on loop in the practice.
That's it, right? And it's less judgmental, actually, in that same quote. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it was a little over a year ago, might have been a little longer, we, meaning Seattle Study Club, asked you to develop 2 workshops for practices to do in their practice, right? So doctor and team, it's not a full-blown study club meeting. It's for the practice themselves. One built around culture and one built around service.
Yes.
Tell our audience a little bit about those. What can they expect? Why is Seattle Study Club calling them workshops and not sit and watch videos? What's the intention, and what would I walk out of there with?
The key word that you brought up, it's something I hone in all the time. And I would say that's probably my biggest frustration with a lot of companies is I think people, they want to hire out the work. You can't.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works. And you have to do the work. You can bring in advice, but you ultimately have to go to the gym if you want to get fit.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing with culture. So I love the fact they're called workshops because that's the idea. If you're working on culture, that means you're going to be intentional about refining your culture. You're going to learn what keeps the culture together. A lot of what we just talked about, how to create a culture that supports an individual's personal best, and really how to connect with, I tell people a lot of times we step out of work and we step into a case study that contradicts a lot of what we were trying to say matters at work. With these larger organizations, they want consistency, so everything's scripted. But they walk out of work and they realize scripts don't work in the real life. They don't work at work either. You need a culture that supports an individual's personality, their life. They say the only person you never tire of working for is yourself. And so no matter how great a brand is, no matter how great a company is, there's a day it becomes the company or the brand. But we're usually willing to do something for ourselves every day. So workshop number 1 is about how do you build a culture that really operates in a way that helps you thrive, helps you not leave yourself at the door, but actually bring the best version of yourself into work. How do we create a culture where even if I am having an off day, I'm surrounded by people working at their best, and that pulls me up? Not in a spin doctor way, not in a, forced, let's have a good day. Just let's have an authentic day. Let's be real.
In these workshops, and the teams are coming up with those. So you're prompting, but they're coming up with and developing their own solutions and ideas and structures.
Absolutely.
Around
and that's key. That's key because it's every neighborhood's different. Every group is different. Every practice. That's one of the things that I've noticed over the years, speaking to so many different study clubs. they can have a similar structure, study club to study club to study club, but each study club has a very distinct personality.
Yes.
In the best way. And I love that. You've got some that are, it's truly a studious group that is there to put pen to paper and learn. You've got some where you can see this is literally what lifts them. This is all about the community and everything. And they're all right.
Well, Todd, I really, really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. You know how much I love you, and I can't wait to actually see you in person. And cheers, my friend. Thank you very much.